My name is Bella Sterling. I'm 26. If you'd met me a week ago, you would have seen a woman living her own version of a dream. Steady job, a warm little house in the suburbs, and most importantly, Ryan, the husband I'd been crazy in love with for 4 years. In my eyes, Ryan was perfect, handsome, ambitious, always saying the sweet things a husband is supposed to say. I believed the vow, in sickness and in health, was the backbone of marriage. And I'd hidden the truth about where I came from, my father's only daughter, the heir to a real estate titan, because I needed to know Ryan loved me for me, not for my dad's money. But I was wrong, and the price for that mistake was 2 shattered legs and a heart that broke clean in half. It started with the sharp chemical sting of disinfectant. I opened my eyes in a white, freezing room. The heart monitor beside me kept up its steady beep. Beep, beep. I tried to sit up, but my body felt like it was pinned under a ton of stone. Mrs. Sterling, can you hear me? Dr. Evans stood at my bedside, shining a light into my eyes. His expression was gentle in a way that scared me. You're in the ICU. You were in a severe car accident on the highway. The memory hit like a flash flood. Screeching brakes, shattering glass, then darkness. My legs. I panicked as I realized I couldn't feel anything below my waist. Doctor, why can't I move my legs? Dr. Evans exhaled slowly. The impact injured your spinal cord. Bella, I'm very sorry. There's a strong chance you'll be permanently paralyzed. You'll likely need a wheelchair and years of physical therapy, but I can't promise anything right now. My world collapsed. I was 26. My future, travel, children, everything crumbled into dust. Where's Ryan? I sobbed, clinging to my husband's name like a lifeline. Please, please bring my husband in. The door opened. Ryan walked in. But he didn't rush to my side. He didn't hold my hand. He didn't cry. He didn't even bring a single flower. With him was a man I didn't recognize, dressed in a black suit, holding a large yellow envelope. Ryan? I choked out. I'm scared. The doctor said I might be paralyzed. Ryan stayed at the foot of the bed, keeping a careful, safe distance. He smoothed his perfectly styled hair, his face flat and cold. I know, Bella. The doctor already told me. The stranger stepped forward and set the envelope right on my chest. Ms. Bella Sterling, you have been served. I blinked, confused. What is this? Divorce papers, Ryan said, as calmly as if he were ordering coffee. I filed this morning. Divorce? My voice cracked. I'm in the ICU. I almost died. Are you joking? Ryan shrugged, irritation flickering across his face. Listen, Bella, I married you to have a wife, a partner. I didn't marry you to become a nurse or a caregiver. He leaned closer just enough for me to see the disgust he wasn't even trying to hide. I'm still young. I want to travel. I want to live my life. I can't bury myself pushing a wheelchair and changing your diapers for the rest of my life. You understand, right? Don't turn yourself into my burden. Ryan's phone rang. He put it on speaker. His mother. Did she sign yet, Ryan? Not yet, Mom. She's crying. Crying over what? His mother snapped through the speaker. Bella, if you have any self-respect, let my son go. He deserves a perfect woman, not an invalid. Sign the papers and let him come home and rest. He's been up all night. My tears dried up on my cheeks. Physical pain didn't touch what this did. The man I loved. The woman I'd tried to respect. They saw me as something useful when it worked, and disposable when it didn't. Ryan added, like he was reading off a grocery list, I'm keeping the house and the car since the loans are in my name. You can keep whatever's in your personal savings to cover your hospital bills. Just sign, Bella. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I stared at him, and in that moment, the love in me died. All that was left was a cold, sharp contempt. Give me the pen. With a shaking hand, I scribbled my signature across the page. Ryan snatched it away, checked it, and finally let out a relieved little smile. "Thanks," he said. "Good luck with those legs." Then he turned and walked out, without looking back once. The ICU door shut. I lay there alone, tangled in tubes and wires, listening to machines beep like they didn't care whether I lived or vanished. Ryan thought he'd just escaped a burden. He had no idea that his rushed little divorce was the thing that saved me from a lifetime with him, and more importantly, that he'd just thrown away a ticket to millions he didn't even know existed. But I didn't know that yet. All I could see was the dark. The moment the door closed behind Ryan, the brutal reality started piling on. A nurse stepped into my room, hesitant, holding a payment terminal. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm so sorry, but your joint credit card was declined. Your debit card is also showing insufficient funds." I went numb. I asked the nurse for my phone and opened my banking app. The screen made my blood turn to ice. $0.00. Ryan hadn't just left me. He'd drained our account. Every cent of the $50,000 we'd saved, most of it earned from my overtime and side jobs. He left me disabled, broke, and drowning in hospital bills. He wanted me to rot. For a moment, I wanted to let myself disappear, to close my eyes and never open them again. Then a voice cut through the room, deep, steady, commanding. "Put that machine away. I'll cover everything." I looked up. My father. Robert Sterling stood in the doorway in a tailored suit, a black ebony cane with a silver head in his hand. I hadn't seen him in 3 years, not since I'd stormed away to chase true love with Ryan. My father had warned me Ryan looked like a gold digger in a good suit. I'd been blind enough to defend him anyway. "Dad?" I broke, sobbing like a child. I was wrong. He left me. Dad didn't lecture me. He stepped closer and wiped my face with a rough, warm hand. "Don't cry over trash, Bella. Pack your things. We're going home." Dad took me back to the family estate in the Hamptons. He turned the entire first floor into a private rehab wing with the best equipment money could buy. He hired 3 of the top physical therapists in the state. Only for me. But something was off. Dad looked thinner, weaker. His coughing fits at night rattled the walls of that huge house. One night, while I was gritting my teeth and trying to twitch my big toe, Dad walked in and sat across from me. His face was hard, but his eyes were tender. "Bella," he said, "I need to tell you 2 things. One bad, one good." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "The bad," he said evenly, "is that I have late-stage lung cancer. The doctors say I have about 3 months." "No," I gasped, trying to lunge toward him, trapped by my useless legs. "No, please. You can't leave me now." "Listen," he said, firm but not cruel. "That's life. And that's why there's also good news. And the good news happens to involve your worthless ex." He pulled out a thick folder. "Bella, you know I own Sterling Industries. My net worth is around $10 million. He opened the file and tapped the pages with a finger. "I've updated my will. Everything goes to you. Under inheritance law, an inheritance is usually separate property. However," his voice sharpened, "in this state, if you receive an inheritance while you're married and you so much as put $1 of it into a joint account, it can become commingled and treated like marital property. If that happens and you divorce, Ryan could demand half." I just stared. I'd never thought about it like that. My father's mouth curled into a small, dangerous smile, the kind a seasoned businessman wears when he sees a trap spring. "When Ryan shoved divorce papers at you in the ICU, he thought he was cutting loose a burden. In reality, he cut the only legal tether he had to this money. If the divorce is finalized before I die, then when you inherit, you'll be single. And that means the entire 10 million stays yours." He patted the folder. "He won't get a penny. Not a cent. He was too impatient, too greedy, and too stupid. He traded a possible $5 million for the 50,000 he stole from you. Something electric ran down my spine. Ryan, who always calculated everything, had lost a game he didn't even know he was playing. My father looked me straight in the eyes. Now your job is to recover. I want to see you stand before I close mine. Turn your pain into power. Become the kind of heir this name deserves, not a victim. From that day forward, I trained like my life depended on it. Every time my muscles screamed like they were tearing apart, I pictured Ryan's smirk. Every time I collapsed to the cold floor, I heard his mother's voice. No one here is going to empty a bedpan for you. I deleted my social apps. I vanished. In the quiet of that rehab room, I sweated out my rage and bled out my fear. 6 months passed. One rainy afternoon, while Ryan was posting beach photos from Bali with the money he stole, thanks to a private investigator my father hired, something happened in our living room at the Sterling estate. I braced my hands against the chair, clenched my jaw, and stood. My father, frail now, in a wheelchair, watched me with tears sliding down his hollow cheeks. That, he whispered, is my daughter. It was the last time I ever saw him smile. A week after I took my first shaky steps, my father died in his sleep. He went peacefully, a satisfied look still lingering on his face, because he knew I wasn't going to break. His funeral was private, dignified. The sky poured rain. I stood at his grave in black, leaning on my father's ebony cane, grief ripping through me. But I didn't fold, because I knew the real fight started now. At the will reading, our family attorney, Mr. Harrison, adjusted his thick glasses and looked at me. Bella, your father arranged everything perfectly, because your divorce judgment became final on March 15th, and your father passed away on April 20th. You were legally single when the inheritance vested. The full estate, $10 million in cash, real estate holdings, and controlling shares of Sterling Industries, transfers to you as separate property. Ryan Patterson has no legal standing here. I nodded. $10 million. If Ryan had waited a few more months, or if he'd shown even a shred of decency, he could have walked away with half. But his cruelty and impatience cost him everything. 2 years passed. I wasn't the soft, quiet wife from before. I took over as CEO of Sterling Industries. With my father's loyal team around me, I grew the company even bigger. I could walk again, though I still needed supportive orthopedic shoes. No one looked at me with pity anymore. They looked at me with respect. I changed completely. Sharp bob haircut, tailored suits, and the steady eyes of someone who'd stared death down and kept standing. Ryan, meanwhile, didn't get the fairy tale ending he'd pictured. Through the investigator, I learned the $50,000 he stole vanished in 6 months. Luxury trips, parties, and a new girlfriend named Tiffany, young and pretty, and painfully greedy. Tiffany wanted designer bags, a flashy car, a lifestyle Ryan's mediocre sales salary couldn't touch. Credit card debt swallowed him whole. Then the turning point hit on a Monday morning. Forbes ran an exclusive feature, the rise of a new real estate queen, Bella Sterling, and a $20 million empire. The cover photo was me, standing in a glass high-rise office, looking down at the city like it belonged to me. Ryan saw it. According to a co-worker, someone I'd placed near him, Ryan dropped his coffee when he spotted the magazine in the break room. He read the article like it was oxygen. He realized my father was dead. He realized I was the sole heir. And then he did the math. The color drained from his face. He understood that the divorce papers he'd forced on me in the ICU were exactly what cut him off from millions. That night, my phone lit up with an unknown number, but I knew it by heart. "Bella," Ryan said, voice syrupy. "It's Ryan. I saw the article. I'm so happy for you. Can we meet up?" I didn't answer. The next day, he sent flowers to my office. The day after that, He waited in my lobby. When I stepped out of the private elevator, Ryan rushed toward me. He looked worse than before. Wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. But the second he saw me, he snapped back into his performance. "Bella, you look amazing." He tried to hug me, but my security stepped between us. "What do you want, Ryan?" I asked, flat and calm. "You misunderstood everything," he said quickly, his voice shaking. "Back then, I left because it was what you needed. If I'd stayed, you would have leaned on me and never found the strength to stand again. I played the villain so you could grow. It was all because I loved you." I let out a short laugh, dry and bitter. "You abandoned me in the ICU, drained my account, ran off with your girlfriend, and you're calling it love?" "It was a test," he begged, trying to slip around security. "And you passed. Now we can start over. I miss you. Tiffany was a mistake. You and me, we're the real thing." "Ryan," I said, stepping closer, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "You don't miss me. You miss my father's money." His face shifted, anger, shame, panic. "Stop acting," I said. "You signed the divorce papers. We're strangers." I turned to leave. Ryan shouted after me, his mask ripping off completely. "Don't get smug. While we were married, your dad promised me shares. I'm entitled to part of that money. I'll sue you. I'll take what's mine." I stopped, smiled without turning around. "Go ahead," I said. "My lawyers will be thrilled." I got into my black limousine and left him there in the lobby, screaming like a man who still believed he could bully the world into giving him what he wanted. He thought he could use the law to threaten me. He didn't understand I'd been preparing for this moment for 2 years. He wanted a war? I was ready to finish him. Ryan wasn't bluffing. 2 weeks after our lobby confrontation, I was served. He sued me in civil court demanding 50% of my inheritance, roughly $5 million. His claim was pathetic and bold at the same time. He alleged my father had made a verbal promise to leave the business to both of us before the divorce. He accused me of fraud, saying I'd intentionally rushed the divorce through while he was mentally unstable to steal what was rightfully marital property. He hired a bottom-feeding attorney named Miller and assumed I'd pay a settlement to avoid bad press. They were wrong. I didn't want a settlement. I wanted destruction. The deposition happened first. The pre-trial testimony. We sat in a polished wood conference room at Sterling's law firm. Ryan was across from me, Miller at his side. Ryan wore a new suit and tried to project confidence, but his fingers kept tapping the table in a nervous stutter. He launched into his fake, heartfelt speech. "Mr. Sterling treated me like a son. Before Bella's accident, he promised the company would go to both of us. I only signed the divorce papers because I was devastated, temporarily depressed. Bella took advantage of my weak state." My attorney, Harrison, one of the sharpest sharks in New York, listened without interrupting. He let Ryan dig the hole deeper with every sentence. When Ryan finally finished, Harrison calmly adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Patterson," Harrison said, voice cold as a scalpel, "you're testifying that you signed the divorce papers because you were heartbroken and depressed over your wife's condition, correct?" Ryan nodded fast. "Yes. I loved her. I was out of my mind." Harrison smiled faintly and signaled to his assistant. The lights dimmed. A projector screen flickered on. "We obtained a court order to retrieve security footage from the ICU on the day you served those papers," Harrison said. Fortunately, the hospital's system captured high-quality audio." Ryan's face drained. On the screen, Ryan appeared, clear as day. Then his voice filled the room. "I didn't marry you to become a nurse. I want to travel. I can't bury myself pushing a wheelchair. Don't turn yourself into my burden." And then his mother's voice, harsh through the speakerphone. "Let Ryan go. No one here is going to empty a bedpan for you." The room went silent. The sound of Ryan's cruelty echoed like a hammer sealing his own coffin. Miller turned pale. He knew his client had just been caught lying under oath. The video ended. The lights came back up. Ryan sat there sweating, mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find air. Harrison dropped a stack of documents onto the table with a hard thud. And legally, Harrison continued, the divorce was finalized on March 15th. Mr. Sterling passed away on April 20th. That means when the inheritance vested, you and Ms. Sterling had been legally divorced for over a month. Harrison leaned forward. This inheritance is separate property in every possible sense. You have no claim. And with this footage, we will countersue for defamation and perjury. Ryan looked to Miller like a drowning man searching for a rope. Miller was already gathering his papers, realizing the case was dead. That was when I spoke. I looked at Ryan with no hatred left, only a cold kind of pity for a man who'd ruined himself. Ryan, I said softly, remember the math you threw in my face back then? You said I'd be a negative number dragging your life down. Ryan's head dipped. You walked away when I was at my lowest, I said. You cashed out when the stock hit rock bottom. Now that I'm worth something, you don't get to act like you're part of the equation. I stood and smoothed my jacket. You took a gamble, I said, and you lost everything. Now start figuring out how to pay my legal fees. Harrison isn't cheap. I walked out, leaving Ryan alone with the truth. He'd thrown away the winning ticket of his life because he was too selfish to wait. The lawsuit ended quickly, but the punishment didn't stop there. The court didn't end with fireworks. It ended with a judge's gavel. Dry, final. Case dismissed with prejudice. Plaintiff Ryan Patterson has no legal basis for this claim. Additionally, due to evidence of perjury, plaintiff is ordered to pay all court costs and defendant's legal fees in the amount of $150,000. Ryan collapsed over the table. $150,000. Money he didn't have, especially drowning in debt already. Miller snapped his briefcase shut and walked away without a word. There was nothing left to squeeze from this sinking ship. Outside the courthouse, the sun was bright, almost cruelly beautiful, like the universe was mocking the storms I'd lived through. Ryan chased after me. This time he wasn't arrogant. He wasn't charming. He looked like a man who'd been beaten down to bone. Bella, please, he begged. I can't pay that. Tiffany left. She took my car. My mom's sick. Please. For what we used to be. I stopped and adjusted my sunglasses. What we used to be ended the second you told me you didn't want to push my wheelchair, I said. You want mercy? Fine. I won't pursue the defamation claim. That's the last kindness you'll ever get from me. I got into my car and left him standing there, alone in a wide courthouse courtyard, watching his life fall apart. 6 months later, my life was steady, stronger than it had ever been. I founded the Sterling Hope Foundation, a nonprofit that provides legal and financial support for patients abandoned by family members in hospitals. I wanted to make sure no one else ever felt the kind of cold, terrifying loneliness I had. One winter night, snow came down thick and heavy. I worked late and ordered dinner through a delivery app. 20 minutes later, reception called. The driver had arrived at the lobby but wasn't cleared for the VIP floors. I went down myself. In the marble lobby of my building, a man in a worn delivery uniform stood there, shivering, stamping his feet for warmth. A helmet hid half his face, snow melting down his shoulders. Order for Ms. Sterling, he rasped. I reached for the bag. Our fingers touched. He looked up. Time stopped. Ryan. He was gaunt, hollow-eyed, exhausted. The crisp suit he used to wear had been replaced by a cheap, threadbare uniform. The nice car he stole from me was long gone, repossessed or sold to cover debt. Now he was out in a snowstorm, hustling deliveries for pocket change to pay off a court-ordered bill he never should have incurred in the first place. He recognized me too. His hands shook. He looked at me. Designer coat, perfect posture, standing in a building that bore my name. Then he caught his own reflection in the glass doors behind me. Shame flooded his face. He couldn't speak. He dropped his gaze and turned fast, trying to escape, nearly slipping as he rushed toward the exit. "Wait," I called. Ryan froze, shoulders tight, bracing for humiliation. I pulled $100 bill from my wallet. "Tip," I said. "Use it to buy your mom's medicine." I placed the bill in his hand. Not because I felt sorry for him, because I wanted him to remember this exact moment for the rest of his life, the day the burden he abandoned became the only person who handed him anything worth holding. Ryan clenched the bill, tears spilling and mixing with snow. He whispered a broken, "Thank you," then ran out into the storm, disappearing into the dark. I turned back toward the elevator, feeling light. Not giddy, not vengeful, just calm. Back upstairs, I stood by the window, watching New York glow below. I pressed my fingers to the glass and spoke to the quiet, and to the father I'd lost. "Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for divorcing me. That paper you shoved at me was the biggest financial gift you ever gave me. And your cruelty was the fuel that built the best version of me. People say trash takes itself out. All you have to do is close the lid and keep walking."